How's it going, guys? Scott from Co4 Performance. I'm out in the shop today getting my chainsaw mount installed on my dirt bike. It's that time of year to go out and start clearing trails. And I've been asked before on occasion, what saw mount do I use? And there are a couple different brands out on the market. But the one that I really like, just because of its simplicity and how well it mounts to the bike and how stable it is the Bill Dart mount. Look him up. Actually, I'll put a link on in the description if you want to check it out. But Bill Dart, he builds these. Pretty simple mount. 1/4-inch aluminum plate, welded together here. It's got a rubber backing bonded to the aluminum shelf and the bottom plate where the chainsaw sits to absorb any impacts or vibration. The saw, basically, as you can see, sits in there like that. And your bungee straps go up and over. There's 2 of them and connect right here. Really simple to deploy the saw, put it back in. It does not come with this plastic scabbard. This was part of the Echo 14-inch CS series saw that I have here. You can carry saws up beyond 16-inch bar lengths, 20-inch bars. I've seen guys carry massive saws to get back into areas that have huge downfall. But that's their intention, is to ride there, cut the downfall, and ride back out. I like this 14-inch saw, for example, in the dart mount, just for riding throughout the spring and the summer every time I go out. Once you've rode a few times and get used to the additional weight of the saw over the front tire, it's really not too bad. Yeah, you may not be able to take it as fast as you would at a race pace, but for a great trail ride, it's not that noticeable after you've rode with it for a little while. So the Bill Dart mount, I'm gonna try to deploy this out of here one-handed. It's a little hard, but anyway, it just slides out of that scabbard. Guys, see if I can do this. Let's just, there you have it. Pretty simple. The way this mounts to your bike is you have 2 holes up here at the top, and then you have 2 holes down here at the bottom, which, let's go over to the bike. Yeah, gotta take your headlight off, already done that. The 2 top holes go up here to your triple clamp on KTM, GasGas, Husqvarna. There's 3 holes in the top triple clamp. The one in the center you won't use, but you have the 2 outside ones. And then the bottom 2 bolts on the mount go into your fender mount facing forward here. Now what you have noticed here is my fender. This is my saw fender. I only use this when I have my saw on. I've actually had to take and cut out and recess and gain a little more room because on mine, this is an XCW, a 2021. I have to run a 1-inch spacer off of here, and down in here. And that is simply because there's just too much wiring back here to mount the Bill Dart saw mount directly to the triple clamps as he likes to intend them to be. That gives you the least effect on handling the closer you can get that saw mount to the triple clamp. But because of the wiring, like I said, I had to build my own spacers. I used aluminum, drilled a hole through it, 6mm hole. And of course, you'd have to use longer bolts than come with the saw mount. You'll have to just come up with your own solution there. I've seen guys use plastic bushings you can buy at the hardware store to space them out. One other thing you'll have to do, if you intend on an XCW or an EXC to keep the odometer, it is normally mounted, you can see up in here, it's normally mounted down here at the triple clamp bolt holes that you need to use for the saw mount. So for a solution there, because I don't want to take the odometer off, I like the hour feature, the clock, the mileage, leave it on there. Motominded out of Colorado builds a relocation plate. It's 3D printed. It's just a plastic plate that basically raises the odometer about 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, but it also gives you some holes in here to zip tie some of your wiring to, just to clean up this mess. It's important that your wiring not bind when you turn the bars from lock to lock. Motominded. Check those guys out. They build some really cool stuff. Another part of Motominded's cool stuff is when you put the mount on, you lose your brake line guide. So Motominded's come up with this 3D printed plastic brake line clamp. It just snaps over the, spread it open, snap it over your line, put it around your fork tube somewhere in here. Comes with a zip tie it on there, you're good to go. So you have a brake line guide. Pretty cool stuff in Motominded. And you've already noticed that the headlight's gone, so what do you do about lights? So if you've watched any of my other videos, when I did the tour of Idaho in 2022 on a 350 EXC, I needed lights for the tour, obviously. So I mounted a Baja S1 up here and one over here on the handguard mount. It worked great, no problems. They were a little vulnerable being up here in the event of a pretty good crash. So the solution that Motominded has come up with, and it wasn't really designed for chainsaw mounts, but it's actually a perfect solution to add some lights. Let's go back over here to the bench. Is their Rad Lights, short for Radiator Lights. Now these are mounted on, I run bulletproof design radiator guards on my bike. But Motominded, Chris over there has come up with this really cool 3D printed mount here, coupled with the Baja S1, and it just mounts on the bulletproof. You can see it just mounts through the back onto the front. It's adjustable. You can tilt it up and down. It's got the wire harness here. It comes with a, where is it? Right here. It comes with the T-harness. So on this end, this plugs into your factory headlight harness behind the mask. You could run, if you're not running a saw mount, your OEM headlight. I'm not going to do that, obviously. And then it just goes, it's a splitter cable. It goes out left and a right, one for each side of the bike, because the light goes on the right radiator guard and the left radiator guard. And so just to kind of picture what they look like, I've taken this one off already, but basically they're going to go in there like that. Super cool. Then your wiring will go up, plug in behind your headlight mask. Okay. Motominded out of Colorado. Chris builds some really cool stuff. He's a great guy. Check him out. But that is my saw solution. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all installed. I'm already up here. Oh, let me back up. One other thing I forgot to mention here, if I can find it. What did I do with it? Oh, it's right here. So this piece. We talked about the Motominded odometer relocation or plastic mount in here. It would incorporate this piece here, goes up behind in the wiring. You have to take this off because it's simply it sticks out too far. It's going to put your saw mount way out here in front. You don't want that. So you have to take that off. Of course, if you take your saw mount off, you can put that back on. It's not a big deal, but it just allows you a little more clearance. I've already kind of tidied the wires up. I run a Trail Tech, so some of these additional wires wouldn't be on yours unless you have a Trail Tech. I've got a USB charging port up under here for cell phone. And yeah, that's about it. But anyway, I didn't want to take the odometer off, so I went with this. You could probably manufacture your own sort of a relocating plate to raise that up a little bit, but the Moto-mounted product is really not that expensive, and it's well built. And I like to support those guys that help out our industry. So some of the tools you're going to need, obviously, you just need to take your tank and your seat off. So that usually takes an 8mm, radiator guards 8mm. Maybe some Loctite, 4mm Allen for the Rad Lights. Check out those on Motominded. Thread locker. What am I forgetting? That's really about it. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to get this installed and I will show you the finished product when it's all done. All right, guys, got the mount all on there. As you can tell, it is pretty tight with the wires behind there. That's why you got to space it out. Rad lights are installed. dress the wire up there. Just want to make sure when you turn your bars from lock to lock that the wires don't smash, that you're not pulling on any wires. Pretty simple, clean solution. I'm pretty impressed with that. I'm going to button it up and we'll fire it up and show you how bright those lights are. Well, all right, guys, that's the finished product of the Bill Dart saw mount. As you can see, if I turn the bars, well, I guess it's not quite finished. The only thing I gotta do is put this brake line clamp on there. Forgot to do that, but you get the idea. Zip ties around the tube. But it's about that far off the triple clamp. Just a little over an inch, probably. You see those spacers down in there? Focus. Focus. Can still run a grab strap. This is a tugger. I've got the saw secured in there how I normally carry it. And like I mentioned, I carried this saw for over 2,000 miles on the tour of Idaho in 2022 with this same mount on a 350 EXCF. Absolutely no problems whatsoever. Pretty easy to deploy. Do your straps. Sorry, guys, do it one hand. And the bungee straps are something you can source at any hardware store as well if you break one. Nothing crazy about them. Just your regular tarp strap. Out comes the saw. Pretty tight to the wiring back here, like I mentioned, but it is what it is. Just make sure you turn your bars lock to lock, that your wires aren't getting pinched or pulled. Got our split harness for our rad lights run down, mounted to there. Let's see if I can give a view from the front. I think those turned out pretty badass. I like them. I think I forgot to mention earlier in the video when I was talking about the rad lights, Motominded. They make the brackets for the bulletproof design, radiator guards, or they make brackets for your OEM plastic vertical louver radiator guards. The difference being the bracket, I think for the OEM radiator guards, it uses a bolt up here and a bracket that's full length and uses the second bolt hole as well. So let's start this thing up and see how bright those lights are. I think that's going to work just great. Just enough to get you back to the truck at the end of a long day. We're out early in the morning. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you watching the channel, and see you on the next one.